Okay, everybody, welcome to the Camel Chat. This is our first one. We're losing our virginity today. And I am so excited because I got someone who is just super special. And when I was thinking of my first guest, this person automatically popped in my head because she is magnificent. In the next hour, you'll find out that that's the truth. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest. So Helen Lyon is the CEO and co-founder of Pure Medic Health, which she'll talk about her number one product, which is a magnificent product called Qiara. Now, what I love about Helen, I got to give you a bit of a disclaimer here. Helen and I, we've been friends for like 30 years, okay? And Helen is also the chairman of TheCamel.co, of which I'm the CEO. So we'll get that out of the way. But that's not the reason that she's our first interview. The reason is that Helen is this year the Melbourne Business Network Entrepreneur of the Year, living legend. Her two products, her main products, Qiara, for instance, has been rated the mum's number one vitamin supplement, not only in 2020, but also in 2021. Helen is an absolute superstar. And I'm just excited that she's here. So Helen Lyon, hello.
What an intro, Shane.
Yeah,
no, it's great. And yes, we've known each other longer than we care to admit because then that ages us. So, but no, we've been on many a wonderful journey together. And I think some of the things we'll talk about today will really iterate the power of team and the power of great business partners and just how you need that to succeed. You've got to have the right people around you.
I forgot to put it in that Helen is also a connoisseur of wonderful white wines, and she's a superstar at the roast lamb, okay? The best in the world. So we've got all that out of the way. So now, Helen, I've got to get stuck into it.
Yep.
And the whole idea behind the Camel Chat is we just ask a series of questions and we just get your feedback that people out there that are either small business, medium business, marketers, salespeople, that they'll get some motivation, some hints. And so we're going to start it off by, I'm starting to think about what I'm going to call this. And I was thinking it was pimple and puberty introduction, right?
Oh, so boy.
It's sort of like a elevator pitch of you know, where you were born, you know, just a quick couple of minutes on, you know, where you lived, what you did, where you went to school, you know, what church you went to, were you a good Catholic girl, whatever, it doesn't matter. Right? But just give us that elevator pitch of Helen Lyon.
Oh, the elevator picture of Helen Lyon. Well, I was born in Melbourne and grew up in Melbourne as well, in Melbourne, Australia, for those of you who are viewing internationally. And youngest in the family, and all of my family will say, well, yeah, you were the spoiled one. And that was probably true. With older brothers and sisters was, I think, as I've got older, blessed to realise and be thankful for my uneventful upbringing, because when you're surrounded by love, that's not something that you're ever striving for because you just haven't. And I think even in business as I've got older, I've been more and more grateful for that. What I call the uneventful upbringing was just pure joy and surrounded by lots of people who doted on me and loved me. So how lucky was I? Went to school in Melbourne, good Catholic girls, St Raphael's Primary School in West Preston, Santa Maria College in Northcote. Left school early in what was Form 5 then because I was bored.
That was leaving, wasn't
it? Yeah. At the end of there, I think I always thought I'd either be a fashion designer or a lawyer. And the fashion design, you know, I think my sewing teacher told me that I didn't make something when I was in Form 3, and so that kind of killed that because I figured, you know, I can make anything. I don't need you to show me how to. So, and my legal studies teacher, we used to call Sister Interesting because she wasn't very interesting. And but anyway, left school, started first job at the State Electricity Commission of Victoria.
The SEC.
You know, we had to go and do an IQ test kind of thing for intake, and I got one of 23 jobs, I think, out of 2,000 applicants. I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. I'll go and start working, and I'll study part-time, which is what I did.
Yep.
That was an interesting time. very different times to these days. If some of the things that happen to us in our workplaces as young women happened now, there'd be outrage and uproar. But that's another story completely. I was there until I was 23, I think. At 22, I decided I was going to change my life, and I was going to buy myself a house, and I was going to get a new job.
Right.
And I did both in the same week. It took me 6 months to get there, but I did them both in the same week. And ended up working in the IT industry, and went to work for a company called, for those who might remember, called Wang. Was Wang Australia, part of Wang Laboratories. And at that time, I kind of wrote to them and told them they'd be silly not to employ me, and they did, because I figured that it would be difficult to apply to get a job somewhere else and change your career when you'd been working for a government agency. So anyway, that was a career-defining moment, I must say. Not now. You couldn't believe where I am now. That would have come from there. But yeah, good times. Met lots of interesting people. Travelled.
Met me.
Met you. Yeah, I'm not saying where I met you.
You know, the funny part, a lot of people probably don't know or forget, Wang was as big as Apple.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you know, they were huge. That they had these word processing machines, and
Wang had a product called Wang Office.
Yeah.
And before Microsoft Office, before Microsoft was even Microsoft, and it was extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary time. I've got friendships from that time to this day. It was an amazing place to work, and really did build lifelong friendships, unlike any other workplace I've ever had.
I remember.
My business partner now is actually I met back in the day.
It was hardware and software.
Yeah.
And they had these beautiful machines.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, nothing.
Nothing.
Crazy. All righty. So, good Catholic school, right? Which was really what it was like back in those days. You had a good Catholic education, and then you went off to the SEC. Then you did the massive turnaround and went into sales, big risk. And then fast forward, we end up with Pure Medic and Qiara. So if we could do the same thing, a quick 3-minute business story, you're in the elevator, you've got someone wants to give you $50 million. What's the quick elevator pitch about Qiara? What got you there?
What got me there? Okay, so what got me there is really, really interesting, because a friend of mine, I've been from Wang, I moved into wireless technologies and into a wireless technology startup that I was kind of part of with partner. And there were a whole lot of issues. Things went wrong in that business, and then the angel investor died. And I thought to myself, geez, I better find a job. Yeah. And so I was looking for some work, and I was finding it difficult to even get an interview, because, people would say, oh, we wanted to meet you, but you're going to be bored in a minute in this role. I'd say, for God's sake, can I tell you when I'm bored? I need to eat. And I figured to myself, you know what? The only way I'm going to get a job is through somebody's work with me, somebody who knows me. So I sent out my resume to a few mates and said, keep your ears open. And one of them came back in a couple of weeks and said, are you still looking for some work? I've got a mate who he's an entrepreneur, got a number of businesses. He's got some problems in one of his businesses. I thought you might be able to help. You need to meet him tomorrow. And I said, yeah, sure, no worries. I can do that. Yeah. And by the way, what's the industry? I said, pharmaceuticals. I said, you've got to be kidding, haven't you? Because I was a tech girl, I had wireless technologies, and, Wang was before anybody. We were in a technological world. It was before the internet. Now I am really aging myself. So I went along and met with Vincent and then his son, and then all of a sudden I'm starting to consult to this company, Pure Medic. And I spent my first 4 weeks there. I guess the handover was, there was a CEO leaving, and he sort of handed me a piece of paper and said, this looks pretty promising technology, and it was a probiotic. He said, if you're going to do anything here, I'd suggest that you look at this. So I spent the next 4 weeks with a dictionary and a bunch of research papers, and because I'd never read a medical research paper before in my life.
Yeah.
But I was fascinated. You know, it kind of gripped me. I thought, my God. So a little bit fast forward for those who don't know what Qiara is about and how Qiara got burned. But this probiotic was researched to prevent and treat mastitis in mums.
Yeah, big problem.
Big problem, and it really gripped me. But so I went back to Vincent, who was the owner of this business, and said, I think this is really interesting. I think there's something here, but we need to have a relationship with the researchers. We've got no idea, you know, you don't have that relationship. So you're going to invest money into bringing this product to market.
Yeah.
Then you actually need to, we need to be sure we're on the same page. So I grabbed a regulatory expert and, you know, medicines formulations expert, and the director, Vincent's son, the director of the company, another director of the company, and we flew to Europe and met with the researchers. And that's kind of where it began.
And where's it at now?
So 10 years since
10 years later.
10 years later. So we brought this probiotic to market in 2012. So you can imagine everyone talks probiotics now.
Yeah.
If you can imagine in 2012, not only talking about a probiotic because the only one anyone knew was Yakult, but trying to talk about a probiotic to a bunch of medical practitioners as a therapeutic agent. It's something that can actually fix something, and something as serious as helping mums keep breastfeeding and, you know, helping to reduce the symptoms of their mastitis and reduce the occurrence of mastitis. It was like being an alien. I might have as well had the, you know, the little, my favourite Martian on the head. So I laugh to myself because I say, you know, 10 years to become an overnight success, and which is exactly what it's been, because we've now got this brand that people know and people love. We've got the products for infants, and people come into shops and say, I want the blue box or I want the purple box.
One question what I picked up. So the SEC was your first job.
Yep.
So you actually applied for that job.
Yep.
And Wang you applied for? Yeah,
it wasn't a job though. There was no job advertised at Wang.
So you didn't apply for it.
Well,
you found out.
I just sort of wrote to them and said, you know, and I moved over in an admin role, a very similar role, and ended up running Telstra account in sales nationally. But I just wrote to them and said I wanted to change my life, and I thought I don't want to be in a position where, you know, there's a job advertised and there's like 20,000 applicants, you know, or 10 applicants or 20 or 30 applicants, and they'd look at me and go, oh, she's just worked for the government. And I thought that would be a limiting factor. So at 22, I decided that was a limiting factor, and so therefore I would.
So have you had a history of that you've actually never applied for a job?
Actually, I hadn't thought about it, because the SEC, all I did was go for an intake. You know, I just sat an entrance exam, so it wasn't a job as such. But well, I mean, it kind of was, but it was straight out of school. Yeah, no, I've never applied for a job. I didn't think about that. Oh, no. So I've applied for some jobs, but no, I haven't. No.
All right. So, and if you look at it, right, you're in the SEC, you've been admin, and then you go to Wang and you're super IT superwoman.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden,
I was admin in Wang for a little while too. Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're in Qiara, which you're not a doctor, you're not a professor, and here you are, this brand, which probiotics back then, you're right, nobody really knew about them, right? It was all antibiotic. And all of a sudden, you have to build this brand.
Yeah.
What is it in the Helen Lyon early years that gave you this thing where you could just jump in and think, oh, yeah, there's a market for this. And what's it about? Which part of your life did that?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? And it's probably, and you know, when you talk about even the upbringing, and I don't know, I always thought that anything was possible. And I thought, oh, you know, well, why can't you do that?
Yeah.
Why can't I do that?
Where'd you get that from?
Oh, probably a bit of mum and dad and brothers and sister, and we've all got a little bit of the don't give up gene, and the glass half full gene. I guess I often, as you know, I often talk about that, and I think that I've always had a very optimistic approach to things, and think, you know, people say, "Well, you can't do that." Oh, why not?
Why not? Yeah.
Why can't you do that?
Yeah.
You know, just because things have always been done this way, why do they have to always be done this way?
So if you were sitting down talking to a budding entrepreneur, or they were listening in the background, I've gone off track a bit for a minute. I'll get back. Right. And they turn around and they said, well, what's the major attributes I need? Is this sort of what you consider in all the people you've met, you know, that there's this ability of, well, why can't we do that? Or, well, I don't know anything about it, but it doesn't matter, because the basic instinct or that basic DNA, give me a bottle top factory and I'll use what I've learnt and know, and I'll make that bottle top factory work.
Yeah.
Do you think that's...
Yeah. And look, I think if there's one thing that I do well is I build really great teams, and that's because being, you know, I think we were brought up on you treat people like you like to be treated yourself, and be kind. And so, yeah, and I always laugh. I say I like to surround myself with people smarter than me. And some people don't like to do that. They feel intimidated. They feel like it actually threatens them. But, oh, God, just give me all the smart people.
Yeah.
I love having people who know that I don't know around me. And that was really even how we started Qiara. I had some wonderful people around me, become friends and still around me to this day, who knew so much more about this industry than I did. But, you know, I'm a pretty good learner, and I'm a good listener as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's held me in good stead. But also just that, the belief in, well, you can get it done. You can get it done. You just got to figure out how.
Okay.
I always think there's always something you can do. You just got to work out what it is.
Did you have a lot of money with you?
No.
Like, was there a great big stash of cash where you could get these smart people and you could get all this wonderful stuff? Did you have that?
The business was, look, it wouldn't be where it is today without the support of the a little bit later, but he had a long-term vision, but look, we spent not 1 cent on advertising. We did conferences and events, but we built this business pretty old school. There was never any money. I think we did our first advertising, as in mainstream advertising on Facebook or anything like that, just in May of this year, 10 years later. So there wasn't huge.
Did we lose it?
Amount.
We've got a technical difficulty, Ellie.
Hello.
Yeah, we're back now.
I don't know where we got to.
Well, we were talking about the. Just keep going, Helen. It doesn't matter.
Just keep going. Going.
So the reason I talked about the money bit, because I know, like TheCamel, we started with nothing much, right? But I look at, when I'm sitting there talking to people today, it's almost like, oh, well, I can't do that. I don't have any money.
Yeah.
Whereas the attitude we had, and I don't know whether it's a generational thing, or it's an upbringing thing, or it's people we've worked with, because we've been lucky, we've worked with some champions, where we don't think about, that's not an objection to greatness.
No.
Right? We sit back and think, yeah, we're going to give this a shot, you know, and we'll beg, borrow, steal, favours, whatever, right, to get where we are.
We did really small production runs to manage the cash flow, and it means your product's a little bit more expensive. But I mean, as I said, we wouldn't have got to where we were without that support in those early days at all. But we're a tiny business in what is a big pharmaceutical industry world. And we really had to play our own game. We could never, it wouldn't have mattered if we had, $100,000 to spend on advertising, because you're competing against these huge brands who have $1 million to spend on advertising. So we had to play our own game, and that's the thing that I know that you and I have spoken about over the years. Even the CAMEL, can't lose sight of the fact of the things that you do well yourself, and the eye on your own prize. I mean, the eye on for our prize has been mums and their babies, and just trying to have them have the best experience. And the greatest joy that I've had in this business is mums and dads and health professionals ring me all the time and say, this product we brought to market's a game changer.
Yeah. And
that's such an unexpected reward. And I'm saying this happens almost every day.
Okay, so
it warms your heart. I couldn't, that was an unexpected joy from this business. It's been the most fulfilling thing, making a difference to somebody else's life like that.
Okay. So you didn't have a lot of money to do, as you said, you've got these massive pharmaceutical companies that you've got to compete against, right? And you've got to go out there and you've got to get this brand established. Yeah. So did you, if you had to name like 5 things that you thought, okay, we haven't got a big budget. You can't say you got no money because you had some, right?
Yeah, we had some.
Okay. We've got to establish this brand. We've got to go out there and do business where the elephants are going to try and stand on us. What are the 5 things that you sit back and go, shit, we did that good?
Yeah. And I remember after we launched the product, and we did a good job of the launch, did a great job of the launch. We had politicians, we had journalists, we had health professionals, and we had no stockists, and we had some good research, and we had minimal number of stories. And of course, what for me is the power, it becomes the stories.
Yeah.
So we did that well. We set out to understand that with a regulatory environment such as we have here in Australia, you can't really talk about a lot of stuff about what your product does, because rightly so, it's regulated by a national regulator here.
Yeah.
So we set out really to build a movement of support amongst health professionals, and we thought, you know what, if we can get somebody to look at the science and get them to try it, then and see how it works, and especially in those mums who've had recurrent mastitis, or their babies have had recurrent gastrointestinal issues, that they'll keep on recommending it. If they see something, they'll go, oh, I'll try that with the next mum I'm looking after. I'll try that with the next. So it was such a slow burn. But we built strong foundations, and we built strong relationships as well, and strong and respectful relationships as well. And we did that really, really well. I think we built a good team, and I built a great team, not a good team, a great team who shared the passion and wanted to come along on the journey. And and it's been a hell of a journey, I've got to tell you. Beginning of COVID, I thought I was shutting the doors for good.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Have you still got the same people? You still got the same people, I think, as when you first started.
Yeah, there's only one retired. Yeah. And I bought her out of retirement anyway, and one had to leave just because of family issues. So nothing to do with us. She'd still love to have been with us, but
Okay.
Still got the same team.
because it's sort of like it's a product, really, it's around breastfeeding mums.
Yeah,
Right?
that's been the hero product. Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, you got, even me, I use Qiara Adult, right? Because it's the greatest. If you've got a problem with lactose intolerance, magic product, right? And Helen will tell you, I've had the funniest gut all my life, and Qiara is the best, right? Bit of a plug there, Helly. Right?
Thank you.
So if we look at it, that's a dangerous industry. And what I mean by dangerous, right? That if you mess up, you're going to be slaughtered, right? You might as well just close the doors. Forget about COVID. So you obviously wanted and needed support from not just the pregnant mums, because they talk, right? You wanted associations and things like that, right? Of which there's lots of them. How did you go about that, getting their support?
So it was interesting. And this, again, if you're talking about game-changing moments, we were at a conference a number of years ago, might have been 2016, can't quite remember. And we were talking to a group of midwives. It was a national conference, and the association educator said, what you're talking about, and midwives need to understand, because they're on the front line, they're talking to mums, and if they knew and we weren't even talking about product, we were talking about stuff that's happening during birth and things that are happening during life. I mean, there's not one of us. I think we were the first to use the word microbiome in Australia. It's everywhere now. It's,
Wow.
2012, I was talking microbiome. So if we're talking about the thing that we've done really, really well is we know our product's great and it sells itself. What we're really passionate about is education, and that's education of mums, but education of health professionals, whether it be midwives and nutritionists or all these people who are actually who are looking after. And look, the family unit centres around the mum for a lot of these things. I mean, she's the one who's making a lot of the health decisions for the whole of the family. I think you've frozen on me again, so I don't know whether I can, whether you can still.
You're still going. All got? We're still going. Yep, we're good.
Yeah. Could you still hear me? Yeah, you'd frozen on me. So, so that became, and so we applied. They asked us to create some modules for midwives, and in these education modules is basically looking at probiotics in pregnancy and infancy and special care nursery, but also the science around the microbiome. And we look at all of the latest research from all around the world. And we talk about the strain of probiotic in our product, but it's more about education. And so that's the thing that we want to educate the world into. Never before have people been more concerned about their gut health, and everyone's realising now that all our health begins in the gut. So that's the thing. We do things like, we're supporting research into birth and all sorts of things from other groups.
How important were influencers? Like Pinky McKay, who's huge.
Yeah.
How important were they?
Look, honestly, they were so kind. I can't believe the generosity. I tell a little story about, and Jana Pittman, who's a wonderful human and extraordinary, I always say, overachiever. And I remember sending her, she'd had her third child, and I heard a story about her, and I sent her a little message on Facebook Messenger saying, hope you don't mind me contacting you directly, but I've read your story, would love to send you some Qiara. And she sent back a selfie, 5 minutes later, with a picture of her with the box of Qiara, and she said, I already love it. But I'd love to know more. And, Jim, our pharmacist, and I went out. She invited us to go, and she's now studying to become an obstetrician. This is while she was still studying. But we went out and met with Jana, and we went through all of that science thing. And I remember her saying to me, well, how you probably can't afford my speaking fee, or whatever. But, we weren't in a position to have paid ambassadors or anything like that. But she was so generous and kind, because she said Qiara just really was so impactful on her breastfeeding relationship. And she said, I just want to help you guys get the word out there. And, you know, like the Pinky McKay and things, people like that, again, who were just, I'm forever grateful to, and just good people. And a lot of these, you know, one of the things, I've spent my life, I'd always worked with men, as you know. You know, you work in the IT industry, you work in, and then, you know, even at the SEC, it was, you know, I was the only girl in construction. And yeah, so this is the first time I've actually really worked pretty much mostly with women.
Yeah.
And small business women. And I found it's been amazing and how supportive they are of each other.
Yeah.
And really want to help, as small business people, want to help each other succeed.
Yeah. Actually, I always think, if there was more women running countries, there'd be less drama in the world, you know?
Yep.
And if I think, you know, even at TheCamel, I had the lovelies, right? Which, you know, they're all women, right? And mainly because I listen to them, and it's like you know, you're a female and I listen to you, I'm scared of you, right? But
that's the way it should be.
One question, true. How much of it is your business is like direct to distributors and how much is online?
Yeah. Look, our online is probably, it had only been 10%, right? It's probably up to about 20% now.
Yeah.
COVID was really tricky, like as it was for everybody. And for us, you know, our major shareholder passed away in January 2020, and I was a minority shareholder at that stage. And in February, I kind of said to my team, I'm going to have to reduce all your hours. This is before we even knew we were having a pandemic, because we're in a fight for our lives here. I've got to turn this business around. You know, sadly we don't have any financial support now, which we did have. You know, if the cash flow was a bit tight, you know, Vincent would be wonderful, but we didn't have that buffer anymore. And so these people who are still with me, you know, reduced all of their hours and said, I need to put some money into doing some things a little bit differently. And some of that was was kind of like advertising, but not really advertising. It was kind of some product positioning. So that was really tough. Sorry, I lost my train of thought, the question you asked me.
No, I was just really, and actually it's a good segue into my next question, really, right?
Yeah.
And that okay, so you had years where you mentioned, you know, this went good, that went good, you did this, you did that.
Yeah, we're talking
and
about
now you're getting into the stuff where, oh my God, right? So what are the things that if you sat back and you thought, you know what, if I could do that again, I'd do it pretty bloody differently, all right? And COVID's a good one because that was a shit fight that none of us knew was coming, right? Yeah. But what are the things that just like failed, right? Where you thought that was a good idea at the time, but it just didn't happen. What are the things you couldn't get off the ground? You know, that because you said, you know, money's not a limiter for you. You know, mindset is not. There must have been stuff that you thought, let's make that fly, and it didn't.
We thought because Qiara is an expensive product that we should introduce a 7-day pack. Makes it a little bit more affordable.
Yeah.
And what we found is that nobody wanted the 7-day pack. A health professional, lactation consultant, or someone might want a 7-day pack to give to their patient to get them started. But generally, if somebody wanted Qiara, they wanted the whole thing.
Yeah.
And your distribution channel as a pharmacist, you know, they want to sell a more expensive one. So that wasn't a huge success. However, we're considering perhaps reintroducing it. The difference is now we've got a better known brand. So that was a thing that kind of fizzled a little.
That fizzled.
Yeah. There's still
Nothing
people
else?
who ask for it. There's still people who ask for it. What else fizzled? No, look, there's some things that haven't. So getting back to COVID. So
COVID's a good one. How'd you survive?
well, understand. So in the first instance, the first part of COVID, I'm still the minority shareholder in the business. The family actually wants to sell. So I come across I'm in touch with an old friend from back in the day when we're talking about who'd been living overseas for 20 years, Linus, and he rang up one day and said, "How are you going, H?" I said, "This is coming like a steam train, mate." You know, we'd been blessed before Vincent passed away that he had a trade finance facility set up to enable us to keep manufacturing so that we could actually produce product and sell it, because as always, anyone who's in manufacturing in small business knows that cash flow thing is really, really tricky. And we were fortunate to have trade finance, but that was going to go away with sale of the family home and all sorts of things. And I could see that this business couldn't survive unless it either was invested in or was sold. That was the bottom line. So Linus, who later became my business partner in the new company, said he'd come along and help me either deal with the family, let's see if we can find a buyer or something like that. And there were some offers from a Chinese company wanted to buy the brand, and I just thought this is going to be awful. Not because they're a Chinese company, disclaimer there, but because it was a bigger brand that probably my job would have been to get rid of my team and assimilate the brand and under their portfolio of other brands.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, the stuff that we live for, and that stuff for, supporting mums and their families, and we know that we make such a difference in the way that we do it, was going to get lost. It was going to be gone.
Yeah.
And so really wasn't keen on all of that. And Linda said to me, "Why don't you buy it?" I said, "You'd be kidding."
It was a good idea.
Well, he was the third person to say the same thing to me. And I go, "Oh," and said, "I'll buy it." I said, "No, you won't. There's no way I'd be ever working for you." But anyway, cut a very long story short, we decided to, and it's a really big decision for me. I was burnt, and understand that every single aspect of this business, I know every single, I've created every single aspect of this business.
It's seriously your baby.
Seriously my baby, from sitting, and even my graphics guy, Andre, has been with me the whole time. When we used to go down the pub at lunchtime to figure out what the brand's going to be like, what are we going to call it, and yeah, so it was a big decision, but I was burnt burnt out. I was tired, and the thing was, I didn't want to do this by myself. And if you're going to grow a business, and it comes back to when I work for Wang and I work for the SEC, is that when you work for a really big business, you understand how important process is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as a small business person, I knew that there was a whole lot of stuff that we weren't doing as well as we needed to if we wanted to be able to grow. And I knew I couldn't do it by myself, and I didn't want to do it by myself. I wanted to have someone by my side to, ride the highs and the lows with. So cut that long story short, February 20, we made an offer. The family actually still have a small shareholding, and we February 2021, we created a new company called Pure Medic Health, and I'm the major shareholder. So we're now an Australian female-led pharmaceutical company, female-managed, female-owned, manufacturing here in Australia. Yep. So that's great. We take over the business.
And then?
February. And then we have this kind of other wave of, so we thought COVID sort of ticking along, and then I'm in Melbourne, so we're just used to being locked up by now. No one else really in Australia was locked up like we were. So there's a whole lot of things happen, and we had to, because our ingredient supplier was renovating their production plant, we had to order like what we needed for the next 6 months. And we're sitting there going, oh my God, it's $500,000 worth. Then we had to put binding purchase orders in. So, oh my gosh. So we did all of that, was fine. 1 month later, a manufacturer who was in the heart of the Fairfield local government district in New South Wales, and that was the area in New South Wales that had the massive COVID outbreak and everything closed down. People couldn't go to work. So we'd planned on all of this based on, and also we were bringing another manufacturer into play, reducing risk. Our manufacturer was increasing their capacity, and so all of a sudden we went from planning for this to actually having this. And we couldn't supply, we were able to produce 20% of what we had been providing. So we had all this ingredient that we were ordering and we couldn't manufacture it. We couldn't even, they didn't even know whether they could go to work at all. Linus actually helped them navigate through the government because at one stage, pharmaceutical complementary medicines were excluded from allowable industries who could keep working through that time. So we navigated that, but it meant that our stockists, it was really tough. We had like 4-month lead times, and and so that when we talk about a small portion of online, we had to make sure that we supported those who supported us, but it was hard. If you're a business, you're a pharmacist or whatever, you don't want to start your mum having Qiara if next month she's not going to be able to get it. Yeah.
So now it's all settled and
great. Yeah, it's great. We fixed all of that, and our aim is always to have 3 months of inventory at any time. But that was really tough. It was really, really, really tough.
So when you woke up every day, and these are huge dramas, right? Because you've just got. Was that a new investor you just got?
No, look, we raised a small amount of money through like family, friends, supporters, just as working capital.
Yeah.
So we didn't have any other investor there. We didn't have a trade finance.
Was that at risk?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't think it was at risk because I'm the optimist.
Yeah, but I think because the CEOs and the founders have got their fingers on a pulse, and we've got this different feeling of we just know and it's a personal knowing, and everyone else panics because they're reading the newspaper and everything else, but we just know. And as you said, you built the packaging, you know what's inside it, you found the manufacturers, you built the initial customer base, you know all the networkers and influencers, so you've got a different knowing, that it's this real gut instinct that a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah.
So what do you do when you wake up in the morning and there's all this shit going on, and you're getting the phone calls from people saying, hey, your cash flow's down, this is a worry, we can't manufacture the stuff, all COVID's going insane. What is the Helen thing? What keeps you going when you wake up and you have that cup of Earl Grey? What do you say? Oh, here we go. What is it?
Look, I think the joy for me has been since we took over the business is one, being able to make the decisions and go forward with that decision 100%. Two is having a great business partner, somebody that you can rely on, and you can ride that out together, and you can think out loud with, and you can swear at, and then you go, right, okay, now let's just get on with it. But we can also, it's like, I mean, we reached that point just before Christmas. It's like, well, your cash flow is terrible, but we knew that we were going to have a huge December, and we knew at the end of January we were going to be okay because we're catching up on our backlog. But, you know, it could have been, if we weren't able to, you know, pull some things from some, you know, out of midair, you know, it could have been a nasty Christmas for people, and there was no way we were going to let that happen. But yeah, what do I think? I'm just really grateful for the people I can talk to around and actually think about this out loud. You know how I use that terminology all the time. It's like I'm just thinking out loud. I'm talking with you and I'm thinking out loud, and I'm not quite sure what to do. And by the time we finish this conversation, it'll be clear in my head because I've said it and I've discussed it with, say, you or with, you know, any of the other very influential people in my life, whether it be my business partner or my family. As you know, they're an enormous part of my support group. In fact, I wouldn't be here without them.
No. So do you think, is it another thing where if you've got someone walks up and says, tell me the magic, right? Is that another thing, like you mentioned, to get a good team behind you, but not rely on your Facebook friends where you type something up and you hope they press like? Is it something where you will have this network of people, you call them and you say, hey, can I talk this through with you? Or you send them an email. What is that important? Yeah, look,
I mean, I've got a close circle of people that it's part of everyday conversations, you know, so there's probably a small core group of people that, they're friends, their family, their trusted advisors, they're people that I can think out loud with. And that's I
know I got that.
Yeah.
You know, where I'm useless. I've got, you know, the three wise men, which one of them's a girl, which is you, you know, and I sit back. But then, you know, I had a situation 2 weeks ago where I had a major drama that I was sort of sit back thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I just used WhatsApp and I just messaged two friends, which are, you know, wise monkeys, you know, and I said, hey, I'm in trouble here. What do I do? What's your advice about this? And I know that there's a lot of the, you know, the millennial type now, they don't do that. They panic more.
I've got to say, picking up the phone, and so this was another thing during COVID, and when I reduced everyone's hours, I said, the rule book's out. Everything we've done before, it's
Forget
done.
about it.
Forget about it. We've got to find a different way to communicate with people, and we've got to pick up the phone and talk to people. And and I'm at a conference this week myself, and the joy of actually meeting people face to face, or it's build the relationship, and the relationship is the relationship's important, whether it be a professional relationship or a personal relationship. Or a bit of both of them.
I don't know. I think it's something. If I look at what makes the great, it's that. It's that if the relationship is right, everything else falls into place.
Yeah, I think so.
But if the relationship's right, you can make things fall into place. You know, when I'm hearing from you, you know, I'm sitting back and you rely very heavily on that.
Look, we had like our distributor and our third-party logistics provider. I mean, wonderful support when our cash flow was tight. I just said, you know, I said, can you pay the out-of-pocket, Helen? And I know you're good for the rest. And so we'd make sure that, you know, the things that he was out of pocket for that we paid, and the rest we were paying off. And, you know, now
that's really old school stuff.
It is. And it's actually having those conversations and picking up the phone and saying, mate, I need such and such. I can't pay you for 45 days or whatever, but I would never, ever, one thing I will never do is ask somebody to do something I can't pay for. I would never ask somebody to do something for free, because I think people don't, I value who is part of my support team. And
keep your promises.
Oh, 100%. If you can't keep your promises. And that, and this is when you talk about things that you haven't done so well, or the things that things from my upbringing is that people were good. Like in my life, everyone around me I trusted and I loved and loved me. And so I come to the table with the belief that everybody's good. It's not always the case. But I also think it holds you in good stead as it's where we should all start, isn't it? You know? Now, getting back to some of the things that are done badly is, and my advice to everybody out there going into international markets, get your trademark sorted.
Oh.
Don't go into another country without having your trademark sorted. That's Helen's piece of advice for when people aren't necessarily good and they're not necessarily nice and they think that they can do some things like that. Yeah.
I agree with you on that. I agree with you. Have a good lawyer, have a good accountant, have a great bank manager, right? All those things, get those sorted. The other thing is the team, right? If you can't afford the team, have that network of advisors, the three wise monkeys, the wise men, you know, whatever you want to call them, that you can call upon them and don't be afraid to do it, right? Which probably get to the last lot of questions. We've done so well so far, right? I'm actually impressed, Helen, because we've actually kept to the script there, which I was a bit worried we wouldn't. So I think one of the things I really want to get across on these talks is because, you know, I'm so old school, right? And, you know, I'm a bit older, so it's fine that I'm old school. But one of the things I love about our vintage is we're unbelievable survivors, right? You could put us out in a bloody desert and we will find. I remember playing those survival games in training programs, you know, where they'd drop you in a desert and you had to be able to do this. And we would get out of there healthy, wealthy, and wise. And all the newbies would be sitting there broke and miserable because we just had this instinct. And I don't know whether it's we were brought up in the western and northern suburbs, it was our parents, it was a Catholic school, I don't know. No. But if you've got someone sitting in front of you, you've got a group of people, you get asked to talk at Thornbury High School, give us the success secrets of life, right? To the entrepreneurs, what in your opinion is the major skill sets that you've got to have, and if you don't have them, get on YouTube and find them, to succeed as an entrepreneur now?
You've got to have grit.
Grit.
And
tough skin.
And you have to, well, one, you've got to believe in your vision, you've got to believe in your in whatever your product or service is. And I don't know, I'm a big believer in you be kind, you be respectful.
Yep.
You play your own game and you don't try and play somebody else's. You know, you're nice to people. You don't, don't be an asshole.
Yeah. You're allowed to say asshole.
Yeah. Treat people like you, but also surround yourself with the best possible people and bring them along with you. And it's actually a lot of fun. It's, it's a lot of fun. But, look, I think the tenacity, all of those sorts of things, the ability to, everyone knows who works in my team, knows my mantra. And this mantra came when my brother fell ill and later passed away 17 years ago. And it was, if the worst thing that happens to me today is what just happened, when something goes wrong, then it's been a good day. And
that's a good mantra.
So when things go wrong, and everyone's going, oh, and I say, if the worst thing that happens to us today is what just happened, it's been a good day.
Yep.
And I tell myself that every day, because there's always something that happens.
I try and go to bed at night, no matter how shitty the day has been, no matter how many dramas, how many arguments, whatever, I try and set the sun on those things. I want to go to bed and I don't want to wake up with the same shit surrounding me tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
And get on with it, no matter how bad and ugly it is. Just sit back and say, oh. But I think one of the things I got out of this chat today is every one of the legends that I know in this business, there's this thing about this loyalty. It's none of this fake it until you make it,
No.
right? There's no lies.
I don't do any best friends.
You know what I mean? There's just something about this honesty, this integrity. And then I look at the ones that, yeah, they make it, but they don't last long.
Yeah.
They don't have those same attributes.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if I look at, everything from, my graphics guy to the printing guys to the packaging guys, to the whatever, they've been with me all through, and manufacturer, and they've been incredibly supportive, but you know what else, the really important thing, be honest.
Honesty.
Just be honest, just tell it like it is. It's like, and then.
Is it Rotary or Lions Club that has that?
I'm not sure.
I think it's one of the, I'll look it up. I'll put it up there. Last question. In this day and age, everyone, I'm actually going to write a blog about it next month about bloody Google and the front page of Google, right? I reckon I'm going to call it the anchor of business, the front page of Google, right? Everyone wants that so bad that they forget there's other things you can do. But the question is, if a typhoon went through Google and social media and you had to, like we did back in the day, start a new business, what's 3 things that you would do to get it off the ground? No, there's no Facebook, there's no Google. It's just you.
Well, this business I'm in was built without Google and Facebook or anything like that. I mean, you would remember when Facebook people were trying to convince me to get a Facebook page for Qiara.
I didn't want to do it.
No, I don't want to. And it's kind of, it's about do what it did before. You find your community, you engage with your community, you talk to them, you find the the niche or whatever that you're trying to work in, and you're old school. I mean, you have to be old school, but to me, it's that face-to-face. Oh, how many times have we all seen you write an email and somebody misinterprets it?
Yep. Face-to-face.
Pick up the phone.
Pick up the phone.
Talk to me. Yeah. Because you've sent me an email and I've responded and you've taken this out of context.
Especially with my command of the English language. I could write it and it would make no bloody sense at all. They might think I'm threatening them with homicide. Yeah. So I agree, right, that I'm one of those people. I believe you could put me on a desert island and I could succeed without Facebook, because we've learned that old school of doing business. And if anyone comes to me and say, what is the number one thing I should learn? Talk to people on the phone, cold calling. Remember those wonderful days, knocking on someone's door. That's why I admire Jehovah's Witnesses, because they're selling a very difficult product, right? The Bible and God, yet they still knock on the door. I think you've got to have that in you. So I was pretty happy with that. Hallie, do you want the good news? You made it.
Wow.
You did a whole interview, 1 hour and 5. You made it. And I'm proud of you. And I learned more about you today. I'm impressed.
How good is that?
I had fun. I'm excited. That was good.
Good.
I want to thank you on behalf of the Camel Chat.
It's been a pleasure to be here. So often you actually get the opportunity to sit down and tell your story. And I was, as I said, I was telling Jama, who's my offsider over here, I was telling Jama, I'm so bloody nervous. And you know me, I'm never nervous about having a chat. But better give us a plug. Is it www.what? Qiara, and it's spelled QIARA.com or .com.au or .co.nz, depending on which part of the world you are. But yeah, Qiara. And you're in Facebook and... Facebook, Instagram under Qiara Probiotics, and we have probiotics not just for pregnant and breastfeeding mums and their babies, but also for kids and adults. And it really is, I'm not just saying it because it's my business. It is. Oh, I reckon it's a game. I swear by it. Hey, do you do TikTok with Qiara? It's not you, no? Well, no, there is a couple of things on TikTok, but
Yeah.
you know.
All right, last one. I'm sorry, I said I wouldn't talk anymore. Last one, metaverse. Do you see yourself in the metaverse with Qiara?
In the metaverse? Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Don't feel guilty. I said no as well.
I have enough trouble. I'm not in charge.
Agree.
I'm not in charge of social media here.
Yeah.
Everyone says I take terrible photos.
Another lady woman champion legend I admire so much. She said to me this morning, she said, Hodgie, I'll go in the metaverse as long as I can outsource it. That was it. All right. Love you.
You too.
Qiara,
Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, darling, it was
Lovely
awesome.
to be here. Lovely to be here for the first Camel chat.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Maybe
All right.
many more.
All right. Hope so. Have fun in Cairns. Love you. Thank you.